And that kingdom is precisely to reflect on the Christian heritage, history, and the legacy. One of the things that I forgot to mention yesterday was the Masjid Al-Aqsa. As I mentioned, that they had divided Masjid, because Masjid Al-Aqsa, mashallah, those of you who have been there know that it's a massive masjid that accommodates thousands of worshippers, and it was built first by Umar radiallahu anhu, after the conquest of Al-Quds. It was a small, humble masjid, according to one riwayah. The other one said it was even bigger, even at the time. But then the subsequent period of Abdul Malik bin Marwan, the Umayyad ruler, who constructed this magnificent masjid, and adjacent to it is Qubbatu Sakhra, the golden dome. So it really was a big masjid. So therefore, they had a huge capacity inside. So they divided it into different portions. A portion of it as a quarter for the soldiers, the other as a storage, the third as the stable, the fourth, which is the central area of the masjid, turned into the church. So the main prayer area, that the central part of the masjid was, consecrated as the church. And mashallah, I think it's only Yasin Bhai here who visited Spain, and you visited Masjid Qurtuba. Of course, it is, this also reminds us, of course, Masjid Al-Aqsa is no longer reflecting anything of the past. But to this date, Masjid Qurtuba does retain the unfortunate, tragic, return of the Christian era. The masjid, it is called a masjid, but inside the masjid you don't see as a masjid. It is all about church. And they, especially during Ottoman era, when they took over, or when they conquered a big portion of Eastern Europe, the eastern parts of Europe. So they built many masajid, like Greece, Greece and Hungary, part of Austria, and Bulgaria, Serbia, and Macedonia, all of those areas. So Greece and the surrounding area, that they had built many mosques during their period when Christians returned, when they liberated themselves from the Ottoman. So of course, out of their hatred towards Muslims, so they turned some of the masajid into churches. Others, they abandoned it. And few years ago, one of the scholars who traveled to Greece, he passed by a masjid that is masjid, but on top of the dome there is a cross sitting at the top. So this is something that is known in the history. So they did the same thing to Masjid Al-Aqsa. After establishing their kingdom, and of course this is how they treated Masjid Al-Aqsa, and they fortified the city in different ways. One of the ways they fortified the city is to, of course, build around the city different palaces. One of the strongest outposts and the Christian hold was this castle known as Karak. It is in Karak. And subhanAllah, the strategic location of this castle is remarkable. They were able to monitor Muslim activities from a very distance. And I'm not sure if you have visited Jordan, and I'm not sure if you were able to see this castle. But alhamdulillah, a few years ago when I visited Jordan, I went to this castle. And when you go on top, you are able to see from there Al-Quds. You are able to see far distant, because it is very up high. And everything below you are able to see very clearly. It's literally it's built on the cliff. You know, they were very smart to build that. So they used that as a very strong hold for them to monitor the Muslim activities so that they don't unite, they don't plan anything like that. So that became like a thorn in the throat of the Muslims. And this was one of those strong holds for them. The Muslim world around, as it was disunited, weak, as I mentioned, so there was slowly but surely the awakening taking place. You know, by not Abbasid, not by Fatimid, or not even by Seljuk. You know, I'm giving you these specific names that Muslim leadership was divided into these at least 3 or 4 big, empires. Seljuk, and likewise Fatimid, that is a Shia dynasty, and Abbasid dynasty, of course, in Baghdad. But none of them were able to do anything, but there was this young dynasty that was in the making and coming forcefully and becoming strong. It's called Zangid dynasty, you know. And it was Imaduddin Zangi. Imaduddin, subhanAllah, the name is also very beautiful. Imaduddin, the pillar of religion. The pillar of religion. Imad is the pillar. He really was one of the very remarkable leaders. So he was very sad over the situation of the Muslim Ummah, that they are broken, they are weakened, and they are also not in unity. But also, as much as this bothered him, on the other hand, it also bothered him the conditions of Al-Aqsa and Masjid Al-Aqsa, and it remaining under the control of Crusaders. So, but because there was so much division within the Muslims, so therefore Crusaders, they could relax, saying, you know, and so long as they are not united, there is not any significant threat to us. So the task Zangid dynasty, the founder of Zangid dynasty, Imaduddin Zangi, took to himself was to either first unite the Muslim world by negotiation or by force to conquer. And this is again one of those sad episodes in our history that, you know, Muslim fighting against Muslim. Like, obviously, both cannot be right. One is writing for the right purpose, the other one is just defending himself. So he essentially, the bigger problem for them was in this regard the city Dimashq and the ruler of Dimashq, because they had aligned themselves and sided with the Crusaders. They maintained their allegiance and alliance with the Crusaders, providing them the support and the rest, and not realizing that this is only going to strengthen the enemy against Muslims and also the service to Islam. But they maintained their position as such. So there were a number of occasions that they wanted to resolve this, they were not able to. So in the process of that, as he was trying to unite Syria, he was trying to unite Iraq and the surrounding places, who were Imaduddin Zangi, he passed away in the process of it. He passed away in the process of that. And obviously his son is the one who succeeded him and succeeded as well in unifying certain parts. You know. And it was who? Nuruddin Zangi. Nuruddin, again, very beautiful name. Imaduddin, Nuruddin, the light of Deen. So he was able to defeat the ruler in Dimashq and take over. So soon this news reached to Crusaders that they knew there has been the success in defeating their ally from the Muslim side. So it shook a kind of shock wave. It sent a kind of shock wave to them. And this became a kind of hope on the horizon for Muslims to see that inshallah the liberation of Masjid Al-Aqsa is closer now. The liberation of Masjid Al-Aqsa is closer because slowly the Muslim world coming to, to unity and strength. So long as we maintain that, no one can really harm us. So, and then his successor actually, who was actually the governor of Egypt, and it was Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala. His actual name is Yusuf. You know, this was his laqab, Salahuddin. His actual name was Yusuf. And Salahuddin, the one who really rectified deen, the one who restored the glory of the deen. That is what it means. And so Ayyubi is the laqab and title that is, often we use it because he became the founder of Ayyubid dynasty, which is to maintain the authority and power over the Muslim world for a certain period of time. That is why he is called Ayyubi, and Ayyubid dynasty is what it refers to. So there was this tension between Zangid dynasty versus Fatimid dynasty, the Shia dynasty. So there had been a number of attempts. So when Dimashq fell to the Zangid dynasty, so Crusaders, they realized that we are becoming weaker now, so we need to expand our territory to continue to strike fear in the hearts of Muslims. So they wanted to focus towards the down south, of going towards Egypt. Egypt became their focus. And it was here where Fatimid ruled, Fatimid dynasty. So they plotted an attack, and it was here that the general of the Fatimid dynasty sought help from the Muslims, Sunni Muslims, to be able to defend themselves. So the help was lended. The help was lended, and as a result, they were able to push back the Crusaders. They were able to push back the Crusaders and be able to maintain their power. But soon after, unfortunately, as oftentimes it is true with this community, the treachery, the deception that they often bring, from within. So they, knowing that Crusaders actually were the one who invaded them, and it was the Muslims who supported them, as soon as they re-strengthened themselves, regained the power, they again sided the Crusaders against the Muslims. And you can see how fool somebody could be to really do this, but they thought they were too smart. So, and when they did this, so Crusader again repeated the attack on them, and they took over. So this time it was, subhanAllah, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala. Of course, you have to be really shameless to ask help again. Right? So this man who was the army leader, Shawar, I think his name, said, could you help us out again? So Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, he said, okay, and then he came with the army to help them. But this time he was very strict. So he, after they were able to repel this threat, so he dealt with them very strictly to punish them. So even this individual was literally killed as a result of his treachery. This is the punishment that he faced as a result of not being loyal to the treaty and to the words. So Fatimid dynasty was becoming a problem for the rest of the Muslim world, unfortunately. Number one reason, of course, it is Shia, and not just Shia, it is a version of Shi'ism that they had that was quite different and distant as well from the mainstream Shi'ism. Right? So mainstream Shi'ism is Isna Ashari, the 12 verse, right? And within Shi'ism there is different strands of Shi'ism, far right, far left, very bizarre type of beliefs as well, some of them, Nusayri and Alawi, and so even Dimashq, Syria, it was under the rule of Nusayri, Alawite they are called, who deemed Ali radiallahu anhu, as I mentioned, as God. So it was Hafiz al-Bashar was, they were from that particular denomination of Shi'ism. So Twelver Shi'ism is the majority. So this group of Shi'ism is what we call, there are 7 verse, Ismaili. So Ismaili, they are not Muslim at all to begin with. They don't even consider themselves Muslim. They say Ismaili. So, and they, the biggest conundrum that they have, blunder they have done to the religion, they are known as also as Batiniyin. One of the names that they have is, they say, all the rituals that you have in the deen, it has an inward meaning of it. Therefore, you need to focus on the inward meaning of the rituals. Prayer means something else for them. Zakat means something else for them. Hajj means something else for them. All of these things have a different meaning. Therefore, if you go to Jamaat Khana, they don't really pray like us. Their concept of these established pillars of the religion is completely, distorted. So this firqa, it is very philosophical in their understanding of the religion, but also very deviant, has nothing to do with the religion at all, altogether. So it was this Fatimid dynasty, it was this, because the one who established this dynasty claimed to be from the descendant of Fatima radiallahu anha. This is why they named the dynasty as Fatimid dynasty. Although that claim is also not genuine. Hasbunallahu ni'mal wakeel. So now within that Ismailism, there are two main strands, branches. Nizari versus Musta'di. That's a further division within them. So because of their zealot nature to take over the Sunni Muslim world, they tried to not expand, but also to get in fight with the Sunni Muslims whenever they get the chance to be able to expand the territory. This is why Ottomans, they had problem with them all the time. They could not go beyond in that direction. They wanted to conquer India also, Ottomans, but because of Iran in between, which was Shia and all of that, they resisted and they held them back. They were not able to go beyond as a result of that. Anyway, back to the Fatimid dynasty. So this was the situation, and this Egypt, what is as known Egypt, it had old name in the past, right? The previous name, it's called Mansura or Nasira, something like that. I'm forgetting one of the two, Mansura or Nasira. But then it changed to Qahira. Because it was conquered by force. Qahira. Qahar means the force. Right? So the Jamia Al-Azhar, that is a very well-known, classical, ancient Muslim university. Right? If you trace the history of Islamic universities in the world, this is the second oldest. If the first one is the Fez University in Morocco. It was established by a woman by the name of Fatima al-Fahriya. MashaAllah, the credit goes to her. She was the one to establish this university in Fez. And Jamia Azhar becomes the next. It is very, very old university. But it was established by the Fatimis, the Ismailis. And the purpose, it did not establish for the sake of sciences. Rather, their intention was to promote Shi'ism across the world. So it was like a training school for Shia scholars and clerics to be trained and then to go out to convert people to Shi'ism. That was the main purpose of this university. So Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala, because of these reasons, when he killed the Shah, this man, so he defeated them, and of course he took over. And he finally put an end to their influence in Egypt. The influence in Egypt. So he basically brought Egypt back to Sunnism. And majority of the people living in Egypt, they did not convert to Shi'ism. The difference between Egypt, Fatimid dynasty, and those who ruled in Egypt versus the Safavid dynasty who ruled Iran. This is a significant difference. Egypt, of course, they maintained their policy of tolerance to some extent, not forcing people to convert to Shi'ism. But whereas the Safavid dynasty is concerned, Ismail Safawi, who established the Shia version of government in Iran, Iran was 90% or 100% Sunni. But with force, they converted people to Shi'ism. They said, either you leave the country or you change your version of religion or you will be killed. So it was through this that they had no choice but to accept Shi'ism. So this is the unfortunate reality. This is why great ulama have come out of this whole region known as Khurasan, which is bigger than Iran. For example, Imam Ghazali, right? And Imam, for example, Imam Tirmizi rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Muslim, and Imam Abu Dawood. These great giants, they are the production of this land. But since this change in the policy and philosophy and the religion, this land has become a barren land. It did not produce the likes of these great giants and ulama. Imam Fakhruddin Razi, another great scholar, who was a philosopher and mufassir and faqih. All of them are the product of this land. So Fatimid dynasty was finally put to an end, and the Jamia Azhar was, it was changed to Sunni version of Islam. So it became a Sunni madrasa since then. And of course it started to teach the ulum sharia and all of that. So this was a great success to unite further the Sunni Muslim world after Dimashq, Syria. So now Egypt and its surrounding also joined. So when this whole Muslim world became one and united, of course it became a serious threat to the Crusaders now. And because they are now fully surrounded by Muslims. So Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala, about him as a person, he was brought up in Dimashq. And as a person, he had the least interest in politics or warfare. But of course his heart would cry over the conditions of the Muslims. Because of his uncle who forced him to lead one position in Egypt, who was part of Zengid dynasty, therefore he was forced into the leadership role. And then of course he had to deal with Fatimid dynasty to fix their issues and whatnot. And it was here he gained popularity and strength and also acceptance. And so he became the governor of Egypt. And with that, they were able to, mashallah, mobilize the world around. And so he, as a child growing up, he had the interest in ulum sharia. So what I'm trying to make the connection is that as a person, he was Hafiz al-Quran. As a madhab, he was, Shafi'i. And as a aqidah, he was Ash'ari. And he had memorized Quran. And he was the student of the Nidamiya Madrasa, which was a franchise schooling system across the Muslim world. Nidamul Mulk had established this. And it was him who, Nidamul Mulk, had hired Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala to be the head of the madrasa and also to be the teacher of the madrasa. It produced many great scholars. So he went through that madrasa system. So he was a scholar in essence. So when he took the role of leadership, his religious leaning influenced many of the policies that he adopted when he rose to power. That's the point I'm trying to make. Because of his background and because of his studies and whatnot. So after uniting the world around, the Muslim world, of course now the situation was really becoming tense day by day and getting worse, and also it is becoming difficult for the Crusaders. So, but there were few incidents that happened in between that really triggered the situation. So one of them being, after Fatimid losing the power, there was this group among them. They belonged to one strand of Ismaili Shi'ism, and it's called, I think, Nizari, or perhaps Nizari if I'm not mistaken. So this individual by the name of Hassan al-Sabbah, who was the founder of that. So they believed, because Fatimid failed to, bring the Sunni Muslim world to the heels, therefore we have the responsibility now to really terrorize the Sunni Muslim world. So they resorted to this very bizarre and terrorist type of activity. When I'm using this word terrorist, exactly what they did. So they came up with this plan, and today there is this word in English language, it's called assassination. Right? This word assassination actually comes from the Arabic distortion of the word that they had developed and coined. It's called hashashiyin. There was this group of Hashashiyin. Hashash refers to one particular word is called hashish, and hashish refers to actually what? Drugs. So they would take drugs, and then they would, it's like suicide bombing type situation. Kill themselves, and they also kill the person who they target. So this group became very active, and they targeted key Sunni Muslim figures. Key Sunni Muslim figures. So Hashashiyin was the one that they wanted to assassinate individuals secretly. Right? That was their plan and plot. So the English word assassination comes from that. So the history of this word goes back to this Arabic word. This is where the word developed from. Okay. So Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala was twice attempted by this group to assassinate him. Right? But alhamdulillah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a greater plan for him. So Allah rescued him and protected him on both occasions. On both occasions. So then he managed, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahimahullah managed his situation. He wanted to actually deal with this group first, to eliminate them fully, and then to deal Crusaders. But because of some situations, some events that unfolded, it demanded his immediate attention towards Crusaders. What were they? They were the Crusaders' leader, honored, or not, it's called in Arabic, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. So he, knowing the situation as it was, getting tighter for them around, obviously they monitored, right, as I mentioned, especially from this castle, Karak, Qala'atu Karak, it's called. So they monitored the situation, knowing what was going on. So he said, the way we can keep Salahuddin Ayyubi distracted from attacking us, to do something greater than this. That's the plot. So the plot was basically to mobilize an army to attack Mecca and Medina. And because this is to Muslims, of greater importance than Al-Quds itself. So that's the plot that he made, and he started to prepare secretly the army so that he could dispatch and they could go and attack Al-Madinah al-Munawwara and Makkah al-Mukarramah. So when this news broke out, of course, it sent a shock wave across the Muslim world, especially the leaders of the Muslim in the vicinity, and Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala. So, and he cracked down this, and then of course he broke, and he followed through this, and then he really dealt with it, very harshly. And then the next thing what they did was a caravan of Hujjaj traveling to perform Hajj. So this leader, or not, and then of course Crusaders along with him, they attacked that caravan and looted them and killed them. So they said, we have nothing to do with this hukuma, with this government. We are simply people who are going to perform Hajj. So he ridiculed them, saying, if you are going there, call your Muhammad al-Iyadu come to rescue you. So these types of derogatory remarks and statements they made, so it really boiled the blood of the leader, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahimahullah. So he said, enough is enough. Now we need to have this final blow on them. So he united and mobilized the Muslim army. The first thing what he did was actually to siege this castle. To siege this castle, and until taking over. So one version says he was able to fully conquer it. The other version says they were not able to conquer, but they were able to break down their strength. And so nonetheless, so that was the last thing that he did before attacking Al-Quds. That's the last thing that he did, because he had, in order for you to, because as I mentioned, Crusaders, they did not just control Al-Quds, they expanded the kingdom by conquering the surrounding area. So he had to break through that barriers slowly but surely. So finally he reached the walls of Al-Quds. It was here that very infamous battle of Hittin took place. And he was very smart to cut off their supplies, because these wars, they used to be very smart wars, because not the vicious wars, also very bravery, full of bravery, but also very smart strategic planning that you needed to make. So Crusaders, when they took over, they made sure that all of the MENA, coastal areas are under their control, because they could have easy access to the aid and support from Europe. So Gaza was under their control, that whole belt. So Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah that made sure that that is gone from them, so that they no longer get any aid and support. So from this side, he took over this qila, this castle. From the other side, he cut off their supplies. Now you are surrounded by your enemy, having no support coming to you. So now when the castle, when Al-Quds, Bayt al-Maqdis was surrounded, of course they were inside, the Crusaders. So there was this back and forth, and when the situation got very tight on them, the Crusaders, so they sent an emissary requesting Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala to grant them amnesty and accept their surrender with certain conditions. So they themselves reached out after seeing that there is no more hope for them to retain their control over Al-Quds, Bayt al-Maqdis. So that was the situation. So when the messenger came to Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala with the request that they are willing to surrender, but by the way, the siege lasted for quite a while, but finally when they accepted, I'm trying to cut this short. So when they admitted and ready to surrender themselves, they sent this messenger with the request, but that they are allowed to leave Al-Quds with their weapons and with their belongings and whatnot. So Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala, after receiving the message, he sent a message back to them by saying, I want to remind you of your entry to Al-Quds, how you dealt with the people. Basically referring to the massacre, right? And the disrespect and the destruction that was brought upon the whole area. So you killed people, you massacred people, and you disrespected the masjid, and you turned into church and whatnot. So how do you expect me to treat you different than that? How do you expect me to treat you different than tit for tat, basically? So he wanted to strike a fear in their hearts. I'm going to do exactly what you deserve. And of course they were really, frightened to know that which means that we are not just going to be removed, but we are going to be completely doomed and killed, completely eliminated. So that was but then subhanAllah, after discussing with the council that he had, who was Salahuddin Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala, they agreed, no, we have to, as he himself being a scholar, wanted to set a beautiful precedence. And the precedence is to grant, amnesty and also safe passage to all of those who want to leave the place. And therefore he said, I am going to do exactly what our ancestor, when he took over your land for the first time, did. That was referring to Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu in 7th century. So when he came in, your ancestors, surrendered, and then he did not do any of these things. So I'm not going to neither disrespect your places of worship or destroy them or kill anyone. I'm going to grant you safe passage and also forgive all the crimes that you did, leaving that in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, deal with you on the Day of Judgment. But I want to set this precedence. Part of the reason I want to do it because of maintaining our policy of peace, and also to maintain the sanctity of the place. Policy of peace and the sanctity of the place, because it is a sacred land, and it is not befitting to have the bloodshed in it, as unfortunately it is very bloody today, right? So he became a hero in that regard, and therefore they accepted. And he said, all of those who want to leave, but he did not accept one condition that he said they could go with the weapons, they could leave with the weapons. He said, no, you will not be allowed to take your weapons. Obviously there is a possibility of retaliation, right? So it is not wise that you allow your enemies to leave with weapons. So he said, I will not accept this condition, but I will accept other conditions, with your belongings, with your children, and of course, they said anyone who leaves, will give 1 gold coin as a fidya, ransom. So it is this way that they moved out of Bayt al-Maqdis. It took some time, but this is how peacefully he was able to take over eventually after 90 years. After 90 years of, after 90 years of captivity and also having this place under the control of Crusaders, he was able to triumphantly enter Masjid al-Aqsa and Bayt al-Maqdis. And of course, he slowly but surely restored the glory and the peace of the sanctity of the place. A number of things that he did when he entered, which we will inshallah look at, because there were some concerns that were brought to his attention. And now time is not enough for me to deal with that. Maybe inshallah, hopefully tomorrow we'll go over. The next phase, what I want to have after inshallah, this is where I wanted to end, but some of you suggested I should continue all the way until the Ottoman Empire. So if you are interested, I can continue, otherwise we will go back to Tafseer, because this is Tafseer class, not history class. So what, of course I will not be able to walk you through all the phases of history, but just the main parts relating to this land, right? So I leave that up to you to decide, and majority say continue with the history. So inshallah we, you mean what happened? It was 12th century. Yeah, 12th century CE. Okay, inshallah khairan. So we'll continue with this bi'idhnillah al-aziz. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. Inshallah we'll discuss the rest tomorrow. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Listen, take it.